Bridget from Crosby Molasses, and welcome to my kitchen where I make everyday family favorites. Today we're going to make one-bite brownies. This is a classic brownie recipe, nice and dense and chewy, and I've added a little bit of molasses to it, which surprisingly makes chocolate more chocolatey. So we're going to start by melting a cup of chocolate chips with half a cup of butter. I'm going to put the butter in first. So as it starts to melt, it'll help the chocolate melt, and I'm going to cut the butter into pieces to help it melt more quickly as well. So the butter goes down first. Sprinkle the chocolate on top. Put it over just medium heat. You want a good solid heavy pot for melting chocolate so it doesn't burn. Now while the chocolate is melting, I'm going to mix up the other ingredients for the brownies. So we're going to start with combining the sugar with the eggs. There are 2 eggs in this recipe, and there's a cup of sugar. Start with the eggs. And just beat them up well. Add the sugar. And I'm going to mix those really well. The sugar is nicely incorporated. So an easy teaspoon of vanilla. And see how I measure the salt? Just straighten it off because I don't want too much salt. I'm going to add a little bit of baking powder. Only half a teaspoon. Now it's a little odd that you would add the baking powder separate from the flour, but that's the way the recipe called for it. And it works, so I haven't changed. So that is mixed up and ready to go. And our chocolate is pretty much ready because the butter has melted. So that melted butter is going to help the chocolate melt. There we go. See how the chocolate is getting a little creamy. So that's incorporated well. And I'm going to add to this 3 tablespoons of molasses. And mix this together well. While I wait for it to cool, I'm going to get the flour ready. And rather than scooping the measuring cup into the flour bag, I'm just going to kind of spoon it in. If you scoop your measuring cup in, there's a chance that you'll end up with too much flour because it will be packed down a lot. So if you just scoop it in and then level it off, and there I have my cup of flour that's ready to go. And I'm going to use a rubber spatula for the rest of this. So here we go. Give that egg mixture one more good stir. And then add the chocolate. There we go. And I'm going to mix this together well. And then I'm going to add the flour in 2 additions. I'll put the first half of the flour in just to start to get it incorporated. And then I'll add the rest. Okay, so we're ready to add just half of the flour. I'll mix it in. And I'm just, see how I'm folding it in? Just getting down to the bottom, bringing it up. This is a nice thick dough. And that's why these brownies end up so fudgy. Okay, we're almost ready because there's no need to overmix. So as soon as we've got the last of the flour incorporated, then we can pour it into our prepared pan. And then we'll put it in the oven at 350 for about 30 to 35 minutes. And one last little bit, if my kids were here, they'd be delighted to have a bowl to lick. Okay, there, ready to put in the oven. Okay, we're going to check our brownies because the timer went. Now remember I said they cook from between 30 to 35 minutes. So it's 30 minutes, we'll give them a check, and see if they need to stay in a little bit longer. I'm going to pull the pan out actually, and we'll just give it a little jiggle and see. Oh, you know what? I think those are good to go. So I'm just going to let them cool in the pan for 20 minutes. Now the other handy thing about parchment paper is once they have cooled, I'll put them on a cooling rack. Once they have cooled, I can just lift them right out of the pan to be able to cut them. Or you could cut them in the pan if you prefer. So our one-bite brownies are ready to cut. I'll just pull them out of the pan. I'm going to cut them into bite-sized pieces because they are one-bite brownies. For this recipe and more, you can visit our recipe blog, molassesandmore.com. And that is a perfect, dense, chewy brownie. Thanks for joining me in my kitchen.